Hey, happy Thursday. Made it by the skin of my teeth. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. So I didn't even get a chance to check anything. Hey y'all, happy Thursday. Feliz Quinta Feira. Uh, for a minute, I thought it was Friday. Mm, I don't know. The days kind of blurred together. A, because I've been in these international streets celebrating my birthday, and B, because retirement, you lose track of everything, everything. Let's see. I am a little warm because I am earlier. Wasn't sure how many people would be coming on early to watch. So for those of you who are here, thank you for tuning in. Figured since it is a holiday in the States this weekend, most people would be like en route or planning to leave work early or whatever. So it made no sense for me to stay up late tonight. Not to mention, I have to be somewhere in less than 3 hours, a champagne tasting. I love the champs. So yeah, it necessitated. I was like, well, either show up early or show up drunk, one of the two. I chose early. You should be happy about that. So hopefully you all are doing well. Let's see who was first in the chat. Venus, good morning. Bon dia. Boa tarde for me. Bom dia for you. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, K Renee's in the house from Cali. Early for you. Okay, all right. Cheryl, PhD. Channel members in the house. Hey, the ABX girl. Hello. Hey, Evelyn. Hola. Hey, BJ. See, it's afternoon for him. Look at that. Hey. Wait, where's the scroll? There we go. Wait. Nope. Here we go. We connected prod. Hey, good morning. How are you? Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited. When I saw the invite, I was like, Champs? Of course I will be there. And I think it's 5 tastings and some food. So, so I still got to get ready. But I'm ready enough, ready enough to come on here about 2.5 minutes ago. Not really, because I just got out of the shower. TMI. Hey, TJ. Look, maybe it was on accident. Maybe it was on purpose. Hey, Sharon. Hey, good morning from New York City, my old stomping ground. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Krishan Wright. I'm the founder of Black Sick Global and the host of the Black Sick Global podcast. We just wrapped season 7, starting to give thought to season 8. Started having some pre-conversations. So season 8 will be in your ears early 2026. More stories, more people. I'm trying to think of one to tease, but I'm like, I can't because that'll be too obvious. So, no. My little fur baby is on my lap. Her birthday is tomorrow. So your favorite Black Sit pup is turning 5 tomorrow. Black Sit Global turning 5. I turned 51. So that has a 5 last Friday. And now little fur baby who's on my lap is turning 5 tomorrow. So Bailey's having a birthday. Yes, I'm talking about you. Yes, you want to say hi to the peoples, or you just want to be shy today? You just want to be with mommy? Okay. All right. That she decided that she was not going to say hello, but we'll post a picture tomorrow because the girl is 5. Lots to talk about. Just when I think I know some of y'all like, wait, you never finished, you never closed out season 7. Because every time I think about closing out season 7, some other ish starts happening. And so I'm like, one of these days it will come. Since it was Independence Day, I thought it was a good time to talk about freedom, right? Freedom. Most of you that tune in are in America. So freedom and independence. And what does it look like? Is it independence or is it illusion, right? So I have some questions. She appreciates you because, she's spoiled. Hey, how you doing? So one of the questions I have is like, do you feel free in America? So I'm just going to pose and start with that question. And then I have some questions to go through, some thought starters, if you will, to help you think. Because one of the things I've done, and I've been doing it for 5 years, is help people move abroad. We have over 27 now that have moved to Portugal, moved to Vietnam, some people have moved to Spain, other parts of the world. And yeah, countless people, thousands who have listened to the Black Sit Global podcast over the years. And as we start to approach, Independence Day, especially with all the things that are going on in the U.S., stripping away of rights, Supreme Court that's compromised, DEI evaporating, this, and they call it the big beautiful bill, but it's like I was trying to figure out, but since it has to end with bill, I'm like, the alliteration, ugly ass bill, right? Like in my opinion of one, is our freedom in the US has always been conditional. And as someone who has been doing this work for 5 years, I help people think about where they want to live in the world. And we go through different criteria. And some of you have shared on this here channel things that you thought of with respect to where you would go if you had the opportunity to move. And some of you are actively planning moves abroad. So that's what we're going to talk about. So, before I go to my little, hey, Daphne's here. Hello, hey. Oh, happy birthday, Bailey. Yay. Yeah. I know. No, but it's expected and live our lives around it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dr. Donna's in the house. Hey. So one of the things y'all know I love a good list. So we're gonna go down just to give it some order. I'm gonna go down some of the main criteria that not only I use when I'm coaching people, so individual coaching or our accountability groups in Black Sit Global Passport, which our accountability group is next week. So if you're interested in joining Black Sit Global Passport, it would be a good time to get coaching. So some of the criteria that I go through, some of the criteria that I myself used in planning my move from the US to Portugal, which is what I call home. So we're going to go down this list. So if you were looking at a country, would you move to America? Right? So we're going to use that same criteria. Safety. How many of y'all feeling safe right now? Portugal is the 6th or 7th safest country in the world. It's about 195 countries in the world. The US, I think last look was at 131, 132-ish. But safety for many of us feels elusive. And when you think about some of the things that have gone on historically in our lives, we can think about things like Black Wall Street. America will make us think that we went from picking cotton to being in the projects or looking for Black jobs, when so many times, even in present day, right, we are trendsetters, we are the prototype, we are industrious. And so we had thriving communities like in Tulsa. And what happened was they burned it down, right? And so I'm curious, what does safety feel like for you these days? Kisa said, not at all. Yeah. Whoa, Kevin said, oh, thank you for the happy birthdays. I'll take mine and Bailey's. 20 days, 29 days left. Woo-hoo-hoo. Congrats, congrats, congrats. Yes, freedom. Yes. The ABX girl said 47, said American born are next. We should plan to voluntarily leave before they force us somewhere. Look, I mean, this is the same crew that has been shipping people not to their countries of birth, but to like other places. And the Supreme Court has said, we got no problems with that. And notice the UN has been silent, right? So don't think nobody's coming to save you. You got to save yourself. But this is something that is not new to us because we've been saving ourselves and others since the jump, right? Civil rights movement that other people benefited from, us, mais ou menos. We have to think about these things. The advancements that we've had in our society in the United States have largely come on the backs of Black Americans. Yet, we don't benefit from it. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the happy birthdays. I'm accepting them. I'm accepting them. Yeah, so safety. Safety is, something that most people think about when they move abroad. They think about, okay, what does the country, like its overall safety, right? Do I feel comfortable as a woman, as a Black woman, walking around? Not in the US, I do not. No. And for Black people, we are most likely to get stopped on the street. Remember, those of y'all who are in New York, stop and frisk, right? Pulled over. I remember there was a period before I left, and my son was working, and I was doing my hair at night, and then he's like, "Oh, Mom, pick me up." And so I would just, put a cap on and go. And both times, as I was driving my Audi at night with it on, both times pulled over by a Black police officer, no less. Right? We're more likely to get killed by the police. We know that. Right? I just saw it was about a week and a half ago-ish. Eric Gardner's widow passed away. And he should still be here, right? And sadly, he's, his daughter and now his widow have passed away. These are people. George Floyd, right? Our communities are over-policed, underprotected. Like I said, Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? White mobs came in, burned it to the ground. Are you leaving, Bailey? Took the land, things that were not rightfully theirs. There was no real restitution. But how many times have we experienced that or read about it in our culture? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they'll hate us, but sit in the sun. Hate us, but try to dance to our music. Yeah. 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 It's true. K. Renee, I'm absolutely not safe here at all. Yeah. I understand. Another criteria that we look at, affordable and quality healthcare, right? So some people look for, well, the United States has a very interesting healthcare model that no one else in the world has attempted to replicate. Yet I live in Portugal. I am retired. I pay about $1,300-ish probably give or take a little bit more now that I'm in a new band, now that I'm in my 50s, for my healthcare. Yet, are you coming back up, Bailey? Every time I get ready to say a point, you want to say hi to the peoples? Yes. Birthday girl, I know. Yes. You've just made a bunch of people happy. Okay, please sit down. But the healthcare system in the United States is crazy. It is maddening. Maddening. I remember, was it now 3 years ago, and I had to have emergency surgery, and it was horrific. Not because of the surgery itself, but because of the lack of the appropriate quality care, which it almost got to be in the danger zone because of incompetence. Nevertheless, I had quote unquote good health insurance, and I paid, oh gosh, it was over $6,000. Like the whole thing came up to like $35,000, and I had to pay six of that. And I was like, come again? Come again. Make it make sense, right? And so some people are having to decide and oftentimes prolong care because of the expense. Most people in the United States will avoid calling an ambulance if they need it because they don't know how much it's going to cost. There's no transparency. And meanwhile, you see these CEOs making millions upon millions of dollars. These companies are publicly traded. We have to pay these high premiums, oftentimes arguing with the insurance company. Now these insurance companies have become so emboldened that, before, back in the day, right, the doctor had the last say because they're the one who is at the point of care with you. Now these companies, these actuaries are the ones who are driving the decision, and they're making money off of denials rather than providing quality continuum of care. And so, if y'all got good insurance somewhere, hey, hold on to it. But for the majority of people, the stats are what they are. I mean, look at the Black infant mortality and maternal mortality rate is 3 to 4 times higher for Black women, that they are more likely to die in childbirth, and that our children, our babies, are more likely to die because of the lack of appropriate maternal care, prenatal care, access to care. Oftentimes, we are suffering from mental health issues, be it anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation. Why? Because we have either barriers to getting appropriate mental health and culturally competent, which is most important, right? You can have access, but if the person that is staring you back reflects the person who causes you the most harm in your life, how are you going to feel safe to say what's on your heart? This person can't identify. And so, having quality mental health services. How many times have we read stories about people calling 911 because somebody was having a mental break, but then they wound up unalived because the police don't even know how to respond to mental health needs, right? There's gaps, and we're the ones suffering. Not to mention, again, the crappy ass system, that is the American healthcare system, is tied to your employment. So if you do not have a job, you do not have access to healthcare. And apparently in this big ass ugly bill, some of the pullbacks are happening to Medicaid and Medicare, and that these work requirements are going to be in place. And I think about some people that I have known in my life, Bailey, I'm going to have to move you a little bit, who spouse may have had a complicated health situation and they became the primary caregiver. So rather than have this person, right, their loved one, left alone with a stranger, they themselves became the caregiver. So you want this person to now leave the house? And who's going to pay for all this stuff? Right? And then you're getting the people who actually want to come to the country. Most of them have been legal, as we found in some of the lawsuits, but you're exporting all of these other people who do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. Why? So you can create or recreate a system when America was quote unquote great? I don't think so. Of no one. Yes. Thank you, Nikki. You got that right. Committed to Me Forever said, hi, everyone. Let's not even talk about when we said mental health services out of pocket costs just skyrocket for no apparent reason. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. Another one we talk about when we plan on moving abroad, freedom of movement, right? How free are you to move about? Like I said, I got pulled over twice, driving my Audi, just happened to have a plastic cap on. So driving while Black is apparently a crime, right? We can look at cases like Tyree Nichols. There have been other cases where Black people have been minding their own business, Sandra Bland, and did not make it home. And we know walking and jogging is not safe for us, right? Ahmaud Arbery. So freedom of movement. I have freedom of movement. I can move around about Portugal. I was just in Croatia. I say it like that now. Croatia is how you pronounce it in Portuguese. Because I said, oh, Croatia. And they were like, Croatia? And I said, oh, okay. So I'm thinking, oh, Portuguese. They say Croatia. I think in the US we say Croatia. But when I was on the plane, flew Croatia Airlines, they pronounce it Croatia. And I was like, oh, interesting. Because I was listening to the announcements and they said it in Croatian and they said it in English. And I was like, wait, they're pronouncing it Croatia. I was like, oh, I'm just calling your country some other stuff. But as a resident, I am not a citizen. And who knows with this bill floating around Portugal might take me a little longer than I originally anticipated, but look, it's okay. I have access to stay in, now there's 29 EU member states. I don't have to have a visa. I got my residency permit. I can go to Croatia last month. Wait, May? Yeah, May. I was in Monaco, France, in the Netherlands. Where else did I go this year? I've been in 7 countries. Oh yeah, I was in Switzerland, and then on the way back, a little layover in Italy. Freedom of movement. I have more freedom of movement now than I did in the United States. Because look, in the US, there are still sundown towns. I walk around Portugal, there's no place I can go. Or I'm like, ooh, I don't want to go in that neighborhood. No, right? Mm-mm. Thank you. Kevin said, that was one of my criteria, safety and multiple entry visa. Absolutely, 100%. It's only when you travel where you're like, whoa, when you travel outside the confines of the US, that's why I encourage everyone, get a passport, go somewhere. You will challenge yourself. You will challenge what you've been taught. You will challenge your beliefs. I'm learning stuff, you know? It is wild. Yoga Bliss Dan said, "Hey y'all, I already got a warning by text that my health insurance may be cut because of federal rule changes." Wow. Ooh. Wow. Yeah. And then, these policymakers make these decisions, and then they wonder why, you know, people have anxiety and depression and insecurity. Because whenever you think you've gotten to someplace safe, right? Title, net worth, neighborhood, whatever, the yardstick always moves. So another one we talk about, freedom from discrimination, right? There's a lot of discrimination in the United States. As a female and as a Black female, like car purchasing was always fun. It got better when I had more money because I had more buying power. So you weren't going to get me with these switcheroo rates or all this other stuff. It's like I led the conversation. So it was just like, no, I need this payment to be this, or I'm going to walk away. Right. And so, but in those early times, but come on, think about it. We face discrimination in banking. Sometimes we talk about, financial, of course I talk about financial independence. But I remember having a hard time finding a financial planner that looked like me because I was like, I ain't trusting these white people with my money. Try to get a loan for anything, personal loan, right? How many of us have had either issues with credit, issues with access to banking, issues with nefarious people? Sorry, Bailey. Nefarious people. Let alone how many stories have we seen about people trying to sell their home and having to de-blackify their home because the value of their home, the appraised value, was underappraised. But then when they stuck some white folks in there, magically, it's like, woo, now the value went up. Redlining. All of these things. And the foolishness is going to continue. Hell, we are not even 6 months into this administration. Let's be clear. That does not happen until July 20th. So if you're already exhausted by the fuckery that's happening now, baby, buckle up. They just getting started. They're just getting started. So whether it's in education, whether it's in healthcare, the criminal justice system, I say justice with a side eye, we disproportionate. I didn't have to worry about having any discrimination in housing or banking or anything here. I sent my documents. There is nothing here in Portugal that says Krishan Wright is a Black American. It says Krishan Wright's nationality is Estados Unidos, right? And at first I was like, wait, I love being a Black woman. But I'm like, oh, okay, gotcha. And as I travel to other places in the world, been in now 25 or 26 countries, I think 25. Nope. Systemic racism is very much an American product. Ooh, talk about it, Junkhead. Ty said, hey, Ty, meant to mention earlier when you talked about healthcare that Portugal just approved paid leave for endometriosis and adenomyosis. I think I pronounced that right. Oh, yeah. They would never. Yeah. Yeah. She was just minding her business in a car. Yep. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is so. Junket said, "Do you think they wonder?" Um, yeah, the ability to destabilize you as a person, right? And the media plays a large part in that. With the everything is breaking news. We have these alerts on our phone. Our devices are listening. All of that is to keep you in survival mode. As human beings, we all are built in with this fight or flight response, right? You see an elephant coming, danger, right? No matter old times, not modern times, right? It served its purpose. And now our bodies are having that same response, or in many cases, our nervous systems are hijacked and it's stuck in survival mode. And so when it's stuck there, you cannot think about, future states. You can only think about surviving the next minute, let alone the next hour, let alone the next day. And I know that because I was there. And that's all by design. I was watching some of the, lowlights of the foolishness with the ugly ass bill. And I was seeing an interview clip from Murkowski, and she was like, "Oh, I know this bill is terrible. It's going to hurt a lot of people, but I did what I had to do for the Alaskans." I lived in the United States 49 years. 49 years. I do have on my list of places to go. I would like to do an Alaskan cruise. I'm like, what the hell, right? What is that? Less than 2% of the U.S. population lives in Alaska? Okay. Hello, April. It says Estados Unidos, United States. Yes. Yes. Because what we don't see and what oftentimes happens, for people when they move abroad, it is a healing process. You go through a period, and for everybody, it's going to be different. And some things start to manifest themselves once you are out of that heightened state. I've been prioritizing massages to get my body at ease. And so, the shoulders have started to come back down, the jaw is starting to realign. We become accustomed to operating at a certain baseline, and we don't see, none of us have a microscope to see what goes on in our body, right? Adrenaline that's being fired off, all these hormones that should not be firing at different times. And sometimes they should be firing, but things are just off kilter. And it's only when we get a chance to sit still that some of these things are obvious or make themselves known, because we have the freedom of time. We can go to a doctor and get the care that we need. Man, just in the I'm almost coming up on 2 years here, but I've had some of the best healthcare interactions, finding stuff that all the time I was in America, nobody told me. Nobody told me till I got to Portugal that I have a tooth that's backwards. I was like, I go get my teeth cleaned every 6 months. I get the x-rays every year. How are we just having this conversation? Right? Just like when I've gone to physical therapy for my face, I was like, yo, this lady had my cheek all out, was up in my gums. I'm like, oh, what? Baby, what? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah, just for her folks. Mm, these self-serving cowards. Uh, retirement security. I mean, if that wasn't the biggest, like, oof. I remember in the 80s, right? And I was a kid and hearing, I remember we would go to my aunt's house on Saturday. And I remember in the Bronx, and she had like this fence. And, my parents, everybody would be out there, laughing, carrying on, playing cards and stuff. And they had the radio on. I remember hearing about like pensions going away and 401ks and, this whole thing. And it's just like, wait, what? Right? And so, again, things get passed down. Information is supposed to get passed down through generations. That's how they build generational wealth. So they had generational wealth because they stole from us and never paid us for the free labor that they had stolen. And then they create these new schemes that they know how to benefit and profit from. Meanwhile, how many people were not eligible for Social Security? Because when they created Social Security, they made sure to carve out the professions that Black people over-indexed in. Domestics, for example. So you had social insecurity. Fast forward to today, some of us have 401ks, some of us don't, or, other 403bs, things like that. How many stories have you read? I read a lot, where people who had been putting money away in their retirement vehicle, but never invested it. It was sitting in a bucket, but never allocated to a fund. Or they had it in something that was safe, that was getting 0.5% a year. So you're never getting the growth. You're not seeing the upside of anything. Or paying money to financial advisors who are putting them in high fee things that, again, still didn't help them. How many of us are in the sandwich generation, right? You're helping children in college, trying to plan for your own retirement, but also caring for your elderly parent or relative who, again, their money is being eroded by inflation, high cost of medication, high cost of food, right? Electricity, all of the basic needs. I think my electricity bill, I was like, ooh, it was high this month because I had the AC on. It was 71 euros. My electricity bills in the United States were like 300 all the time. Mm-hmm. I did the math. I worked out my calculations. I was like, ooh, I could retire in Portugal. And at the time, because I've been here almost 2 years, I need to show less than 900 a month in passive income. What? Not an age-based retirement. It didn't say, oh, you have to be 60 or 65. It said, hey, John, your little 49-year-old self can come over here. And I was like, ooh, I was retired. If I was in the United States, even with having it's not a modest portfolio. It is large. I would still have to work because I know that there is one time I get pulled over, one time I fall, one time somebody bump into me hard, one time I'm in the store and there's an active shooter, that anything can go wrong and make me bankrupt. I don't have that worry here. Let's talk about them good jobs, right? Some of us have been suckered into staying on that hamster wheel because of good jobs. Hey, how many times? Well, every year, right? It moves in terms of how long in the year that Black people have to work longer in order to come to the equivalent of what a white person makes. Hmm. So we have pay inequality, lack of promotion. I mean, when I was in corporate, I was always big brands. I worked on numerous industry awards in pretty much every profession. Um, top tier talent, all the development programs. I even created leadership programs in my last role. And it's like, I'm doing all this. Run me some more money. Run me some bigger title. Oh no, no, no. And now they done made diversity illegal. Come on now. And where's the good jobs? Good jobs used to be federal jobs and state jobs, but even those aren't safe anymore. Thanks to, Orange Dude and his boyfriend, Elon. Well, I mean, they broke up, but Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been able to get jobs because of the pandemic. Still, remote jobs are available, right? There are plenty of people I know all over the world who are either working remotely for US-based jobs, who are working for European jobs, employers. And goodness gracious, all the people, Europe may have lower salaries because the cost of living isn't as high. But boy, the worker protections, incredible. It's like, you can't call me after 5, 6 weeks vacation minimum. If you get into an accident or you get sick, you on disability, no problem. Have a baby, you out for a year, paid. Like, what? I mean, I don't have a job. Like, I'm retired, but man, if I ever thought about it, I'm like, oh, I want one of them jobs. I want them good jobs. In the United States, we're seeing yesterday, Microsoft laid off 9,000 people from their workforce. I read today because I get market briefs every day. And this I didn't bring my phone in here. There's an insurance company, starts with a C. Can't remember the name off the top of my head. But they are publicly traded and they have announced that they are no longer giving guidance to the street because they don't know how they're going to make money, if they're going to make money for the rest of the year. I was like, wait, what? Because of all this foolishness with the big bill, that these subsidies that were going to insurance companies, either through the Affordable Care Act and other things like that, are about to disappear. So yeah, a lot of people who move abroad are able to find jobs or create jobs, right? They are entrepreneurs. Strong education. A lot of times people look to move abroad. I'm going to toggle back for a second. For education, either for themselves or their loved ones. I know a woman that is here in Portugal and she's in her early 60s and she's pursuing her PhD. She came on a student visa. She was like, hey, I want to go back to school. Tuition in Europe, many European universities, 2,000, maybe three. You're paying for some books. You don't even want to know what I'm paying for my daughter's education in America. Ooh, right? Especially considering what I pay for mine. Because I'm like, well, I'm not that old. Why is it this high? Because they let these universities run amok and have multiple billion-dollar endowments while driving up the costs. My daughter moved into her apartment, and it's beautiful. And I'm like, wow, it's costing a grip. But I'm like, that's what your dorm should have looked like. Her dorm that she left looked like a jail cell. Cement walls, a little light in the corner, no outlets, like barely an outlet. I'm like, this is 2025. We have internet. Where are these kids supposed to plug in like their USB-C and all that stuff? But y'all charging six figures? Scam, a scam, a scam. What? Go to some institutions of higher learning and around the world. You will be amazed. Go to hospital systems around the world. Boy, when I was in Southeast Asia, amazing. Amazing. You would never want to go back to the United States. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Because I still got to get to the other part of the list, so I got to speed up because I got to get ready for champs. Treatment of vulnerable populations. This was important, especially for me. Like I'm no spring chicken. And so one of the things that I loved about some of the countries that I scouted was in Portugal, which was is where I am, is how they treated their vulnerable population. I see now Portugal has some hills. Hills. Lisbon is a city on 7 hills. Hills. You ain't seen a hill till you've been on one of these hills, right? And I see visually impaired people, differently abled people all the time navigating the city by themselves. Have a white stick. They're on the subway and the metro, going up the stairs, getting on the bus. Whoa. Older people. I see old couples. They're so cute walking to the store. My neighbors, they hold hands. Grandkids with their grandparents going to the store, playing in the park. They're not invisible. They're not treated like, oh, you're past your prime. In America, there's a lot of older people who are, there's a loneliness epidemic in the United States. Look how many people, seniors, died in nursing homes during the pandemic, right? It's crazy. Spiritual and religious freedom. Man, the US is really good at manufacturing white Christian nationalism. So no other religion matters. Ancient religions don't matter, right? They vilified all of our religious freedoms, religions, practices. Oh, which I'm so happy that in Sinners, right? And I love that movie, shone a light on hoodoo and some of our ancient African spiritual practices. But you want me to pray to white Jesus? I've traveled the world, and every nation I've been in, different, ethnicities, they have their spiritual deity reflects the population. Go into different Asian cultures, some that, worship Buddha. Buddha looks like the people. So I'm in America, I'm supposed to be white Jesus. I'm on Prime now watching reruns of Good Times. And so season 1, right? Bailey, what are we doing? And so I think it was season 1, episode 3. I watched it yesterday or the day before yesterday. Was Black Jesus, right? And so in this episode, and it just shows you, watch these old shows because, and look, they're part of nostalgia. Jefferson's, What's Happening, Sanford and Son, but all of these shows were created at a specific time in United States history, and most of these shows were created by Norman Lear, right? White man. So this is the lens by which he sees it. So I'm watching, I think, episode 1, but then, like I said, goes on this particular episode is episode 3. And I noticed in the apartment, white Jesus on the wall. So then get to the episode, they talk about Black Jesus. And so Michael, right, is saying, oh, well, JJ's, painting a painting, that's interpreted as Black Jesus. And Florida, the mother, the matriarch, is like, ain't no Black Jesus. Where you coming with this blasphemous stuff? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this did not age well. And thinking, right, in my now 51-year-old self, is like, wow, like how fiercely we held on to this. I have a photo of my parents when they got married and in the church, and my grandfather was a Baptist minister. And this picture of my parents, their backs to the camera and at the altar, and white Jesus is up there. I'm like, my mother didn't even notice it. So I'm going through the pictures before I leave. I'm like, Ma, white Jesus, really? honey. And so when I went to the Vatican, what was it, 2023? And, I respect other people's beliefs, cultures, the whole 9 yards. But I'm so glad I travel the world now in this version of myself that knows more. So when I was in the Vatican and I'm seeing, the Sistine Chapel, which will take your freaking breath away, and some of these frescoes and art, I can appreciate these things for what they are. Art. Fictional representation of someone who had lots of money, who commissioned what they believed to be the creation of humanity. But in my younger self, right, who knows? So it just shows at an early age how much these things are embedded in our culture and society. But it is so crazy. So yeah, I have freedom. Quality food. Ooh, this is a big one. In the US, 70%, over 70% of the food in the United States is ultra processed. Ultra processed, not just processed, ultra processed, meaning they done made some shit that they now call food. And so it's so crazy that now, right, people who were reticent, and I'm not going to get into a discussion about the vaccine and all this other stuff, but would have strong opinions about things like that, but then have no problem taking a weight loss drug that has no longitudinal study on this particular indication. As someone who used to work in pharma, hello. I'm like, what? I remember in the 90s, people were taking fen-phen. Then in the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody was getting gastric bypass. Then they said, oh, no, gastric bypass. Then they have the stomach bands and all this other stuff. How about we talk about the food? How about we talk about the rates of cancer that are extremely high? Why are there food deserts in the United States? Greatest country in the world, richest country in the world? I think not. I can literally walk out my front door and 90 seconds, I'm in the grocery store. 5 minutes behind me, another one. 7 minutes walk to the right, another grocery store. Not to mention, by the school, man comes 2-3 days a week with fruit. And nothing has to say organic. It's all organic. Quality of life. Quality of life. So some of the things that we talk about when we move abroad. So, like I said, about to do the champs in a little bit. But there's concerts. There's third spaces in many parts of the world where people are living and they say, oh, well, these people live in high rises or apartments or condominiums. And, the apartments are smaller, but it's because they utilize third spaces. So you don't need so much space. It's ridiculous. I see, people with 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, 3, 4 storage units, 3, 4 houses. It's like, but you can only be in one place at one time. But it's not uncommon. Like the Euro games are starting, I think in a few days here. And literally here they put screens in the parks, in different centers, because they want people to congregate and watch, right? And be in community with one another. It's like, you're rooting for Portugal, but it'll be Italy versus, Spain, Spain versus Portugal, whatever the case is. But you get a chance to interact and know your neighbors or meet people who are traveling, right? Once you start to look at people in the eye and realize that people are not their countries, people are people. And you realize you have more in common with people than you have differences. But an export, a byproduct, a product in the United States is othering of people, keeping people small. Don't want to go to the store because you're afraid of the prices. Don't want to go to the store because somebody might shoot up the place. Don't want to go to a movie theater because what happened in Aurora. Don't want to go to a concert. What happened, in Vegas. The list goes on and on. Can't send your kids to school. Columbine, Sandy Hook. Can't go to church. Little Rock 9. So it's not Little Rock 9, but it's it is so designed to keep your life small, to keep your world small. Okay, going back to the comments. Yes, I am. Yes, in Bogota on my list. Hey, Kimberly. ABX girl said, blue states will take a hit, but red states, especially in the South, will be a disaster. 55% of Black Americans are in the South. Yeah, and you know what? There was a push. I want to say it was right after the election, that there was some people making noise on the internet about, oh, this is how we change, make change. All the Black people should move to the South. As if you don't think they're going to figure out a way. One, I'm not going to make it easy for them. The South has its own history. But really? That's your plan? April said, I have lived abroad and it's something my family is planning to do again. However, my current concern is a trend towards similar governmental behavior and tensions to the US and certain Western European countries. I'm tending to factor friendliness to foreigners. Oh, absolutely. And the realization is, and I think I talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago, is a lot of countries are, how do I put this? Based on what happened in 2019, 2020 with the pandemic, right? People were working remotely. Some people were stuck in different countries, but largely people didn't travel. So there's still pent up demand. And so now people are, because remember, we're in 2025, the world didn't really open up until late 2022, early 2023. So, you're seeing people that are traveling, moving, all kinds of things. Countries, people had a lot of time on their hand to research things. And realizing that they had a lot of unhappiness in the countries in which they lived. So all that is to say is countries want to protect their citizens as they should. That's something that I'm interested in, right? Like when I move to a country, if you're treating your citizens bad, how you gonna treat me as somebody who does not have a whole lot of rights? So yes, I think outward anti-immigrant sentiment, i.e., raids, like snatching up people off the street, like the U.S. No. But look, when I didn't have my residency card for 6 months, I didn't have to worry about Portugal's version of ICE knocking down my door. They didn't check it for me like that. And so there's always going to be a fringe. There is no utopia that exists on this earth, right? No place where you're going to be like, oh, it's Wakanda, it's Shangri-La, right? All I can say is make informed decisions about what sits right in your spirit, right? Things are changing in Portugal. I know that. I can't control the things that are changing, and I can't worry about it, and I'm not going to espouse about it until it happens, because it may happen the way they've drafted it. As somebody who's working politics, it may not. I give no thought to it. I'm giving no thought to it. I know enough about what I need to know, and that's about it. Because for me personally, while 5 years would have been nice to have, it wasn't a mandatory. It wasn't like, oh shit, now I went to 10. The rest of them is at 10. And I've had people on the podcast who, let's see, Jules is in Iceland. She got her citizenship, 10 years. Right? Victoria is in Italy, 10. Right? People are nearing their citizenship requirements now. So if mine moves a little bit, it's okay. Right? But also, too, you have to recognize that as Americans and as Black Americans, we do still have a level of privilege. And so when you see anti-immigration sentiment, even in Portugal, right, there are jobs that Portuguese people used to have that are not as abundant as they were, because there are people that have come from, other Asian countries and places like Brazil that have, taken those jobs. Americans ain't taking those jobs. They're just not. And so, it's not to say that the immigrant sentiment, just because it doesn't affect me directly, isn't something I should be paying attention to. It should, right? But I also don't want to count myself out from different experiences based on what's going on, right? You just have to think about what your criteria is. I wonder how much of what I thought was just human nature is actually just a byproduct of living in the U.S. I'm going to say it is. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, coming up on time. All right. So I promised you a framework, right? So we're going to pivot for a second. I'm going to go through these pretty fast. So this part, I want you to think about your own lives. Now we went through like the criteria, right? When you're picking a country, and would you pick America? But now I want you to think about your life in America. And it's a yes or no. You can keep it to yourself. You can share it in the chat. It's just for something for you to think about. Okay. Number 1, I censor myself at work or in public places to feel safe or accepted. 2, I've been treated like a threat 4, simply existing or in a store, followed car, office, or neighborhood. Yes or no? 3, I worry that calling 911 could make things worse, not better for me or someone I love. 4, I don't see myself accurately or fully reflected in education, media, or leadership. Number 5, I've had to fight harder or wait longer for the same opportunities given freely to others. 6, I feel burned out from constantly navigating racism, microaggressions, or code switching. 7, I don't feel physically or emotionally safe in my body, my neighborhood, or my country. 8, I question whether my children or future generations will be better off if we stay here. 9, I've accepted suffering or lack as just the way it is for Black people in America. And number 10, I've wondered, is this really all there is? But felt guilty for wanting more. So if you answered in a way that doesn't like fill your spirit with joy, then maybe it's a sign that, it's time to leave. Maybe it's a sign that you have confirmed for yourself that it's not independence that you have. It's the illusion of independence. It's the illusion of safety. And if you want support, you can come into Black's a Global Passport, our private community. We have our accountability group next week where we talk about our respective journeys and get support live with me. You can listen to the Black's a Global podcast. There are 80 episodes. Yeah. 79, 80, somewhere around there. You can check out the Black's a Global blog, which was awarded by FeedSpot as a top 10 blog for Black expats. You can sign up for one-on-one coaching with me, yours truly, right? But at the end of the day, the goal is to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. Because that country does not deserve you. It does not deserve your Black brilliance. You deserve to experience the fullest version of yourself, to take deep breaths, to expand your wings, to truly live out your ancestors' wildest dreams. Okay, going back to the chat. Let's see. Did I miss anything? No, I think I got everything. All right, it's your last chance if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm gonna let you good people go so I can get to drinking some shams. Yvette said, I often think about those historical lies that we were taught in school. Yep. People are people. Yep. That is so true. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, I will be back. I will have a guest. I'll give you a little clue. We are going to the continent next week with my special guest. And you get to think about which country that might be. There's 54 countries on the continent of Africa. So this will be one that we haven't really talked about before. What else can I tell you about that? We will be earlier because of the time zone difference. I think it is 2 hours earlier, so I think it's three or 3:30 is the time. But I'll double check. I'll start creating assets, send out the emails. So if you're not on our email list or not in Passport, you will know. But yes, I know. I don't know. I mean, you guys tell me if these early times work. But I mean, it helps me, but I don't know. But yeah, just because if I do my normal time, then it's ridiculously late for my guests. So I think the earlier time is just I want to give you guys a heads up now, is that we will be early. No, not Tanzania. No, 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 no. This gonna be, y'all gonna want to tune in for this one. So yeah, like I said, next week I will have a very special guest from the continent for a lovely, thought-provoking conversation that I know you're gonna want to tune into. So in the meantime, enjoy your long weekend, get some rest, do some line dancing. Put your feet on grass, right? A lot of times when we are feeling anxious, it is a call to get centered. So do something, walk in the park, read a book, meditate, take a bath, do something that is solely focused on you. Okay? I know you got this. But like I said, I look forward to seeing some of y'all in Passport. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and I will see you with my special guest next Thursday. Ciao, ciao.